Hi folks, this is Dr. Kat Schreier, founder of WaterCitizen, WaterCitizen Foundation, and the WaterSummit online education, engagement, and empowerment format, which is what we used last month, a couple weeks ago, for the first of our series on water and COVID-19. It was called Water and COVID-19, Your Home and Health. And it was the first time we were really able to accomplish some really important things. And if you know me, you know that I've been working for 10 years to try to bring my experience and knowledge and understanding of the importance of bringing people together around water issues, policy leaders, thought leaders, technical leaders, community leaders, people who want to be leaders, who want to know what's going on and want to be a part of it, to have those open forums. And you know what's important to remember is that this is not just something that's nice to have. This is actually required by law under most of our environmental laws, that there be public comment periods, that there be public meetings, outreach meetings, and not just as a checkbox, but because that creates better solutions when we collaborate with the people that we're engaging with, whether it's whether it's a local community, it could be an industry, whoever it is that uses water, drink water, worries about getting flooded by water. Discussions about water, smaller and smaller and smaller, more expensive, more exclusive settings, which is what's been happening over the last 10 years. Basically, the internet came along, and instead of looking at what they were doing in live space and saying, how can we put that online? A lot of the folks in the water space who were older, less tech savvy, said, well, if we want to do something online, we should just go get a millennial. We're going to hire a millennial, and we're going to put all of our communications, all of our meetings, all of our everything in the hands of people who have no life at the time, had no life experience, had no experience in the water industry, in the water community, in dealing with water issues. And they were put in charge of how we communicate about water online. So it really became about little apps and in maximizing engagement from a social media sense. So if I'm, as a facilitator, if I'm going to be looking for engagement in the room, I want to see the people in the room actually sharing what's going on with them, and how whatever water policy program, they're there for a reason. We want them to actually talk to us. It's not supposed to be a one-way communication, right? And most online communications in the water space has tended to be blast, blast, blast. Come up with a message and just blast it out there and try to get as many people as possible to share it, like it, whatever. That's not engagement. So the idea was, how can we really recreate that very carefully constructed sense of safety, of openness, of providing an opportunity to really not just talk, but to listen, and to work in a collaborative sense on water and environmental issues that are bigger than any one of us. And that also includes economic issues that are tied to water, right? So anyway, this is really kind of a little more of the information behind WaterCitizen, which perhaps I need to change the name. I don't know, because nobody seems to get what WaterCitizen is about. They think it's all about, just reaching the great unwashed, and we're not interested in that. We're interested in the water industry, and so much of the communications has become very B2B focused. We want to reach water utilities that are going to buy our stuff, right? And all the communications is sponsored by these big water equipment manufacturing companies that want to reach people from big utilities and the consultants who are going to tell the utilities what to buy so that people will buy their stuff. And that's not the point of public outreach. So anyway, what we did with this Water and COVID, Your Home and Health, we looked at what happened with the shutdown and the fact that all of us, this wasn't just the public out there, this was, you know, engineers and scientists and policy leaders and economists and operators and admin staff and HR staff and everybody in that water community were also part of that community that were suddenly and completely locked in their homes, basically, because we were all at under these stay-home orders, under quarantine. And it was a real sense of loss of control that we were hearing from people. You know, these people who go into water, there's a lot of other things that you can do with a degree in engineering or science or policy or economics or you know, pipeline operators. You can go into the oil and gas industry. You can go into manufacturing. You can do all sorts of things that, you know, in some cases are going to pay you a lot more. But people apply those skill sets in the water space because of a sense of public service and wanting to protect human health and the environment. So whether you're on the river restoration side, habitat side, whether you're on the you know, water supply side of the house, it's all related to really creating a better world. And you know, so the people who work in water tend to be very motivated to do that. And that means we have to engage with people. We have to be able to engage with people. And so we tried to do that with this first program that was for both people out in, you know, the public. Some of these communications, water communications, we'll talk about the great unwashed, which I think is the most insulting thing ever. I mean, these are real people in our communities, and both for them and for people who actually work in water to understand what were the things that we could control in our own homes, in our own bodies, in our own minds, in our own families. And so, you know, we came up with a tremendous group of 30 experts in water, healthcare, home care, self-care, and community care. And it was a great group, and they really kind of bonded with each other, which is cool. But we didn't get funding for it because it wasn't B2B. And consequently, what we produced is really just a fraction of what it could have been. And it, unfortunately, it's something that's a little more similar to what we're seeing a lot of now, which is suddenly all the people say, no, you can't possibly create any kind of real conversation online. It has to be done face to face, right? Well, suddenly all these water organizations that had their meetings canceled started doing all their meetings online. But basically what they did is they just took the speaker program, and they blasted it out there. And maybe they had a little bit of chat, and maybe they had a few, you know, virtual happy hours kind of thing, but they basically just focused on the speakers. And that's not why people go to events to try to solve water problems. They go to events, yes, they want to hear the latest and greatest of what's going on and new case studies and policies and learn something. And that's the education piece. The education piece is just a little piece. Then you want to build around that core program actual, well, let's say the communication piece, the one-way communication piece of someone presenting. But true education is not, you know, and true communication, it's not about what you say, it's what the other person hears. And education is not just hearing it, but actually somehow internalizing it and learning from what you've shared. That, if you're an educator, that's what you want. You don't want to just be out there talking. Thank you very much, Steve, for watching. You want to be engaging with your audience, right? And with your students, with your classroom. And so we were going to take the presentations, the interviews, they were kind of presentation style interviews. You know, we were looking at the camera, we were providing really solid recommendations for people of what they could do, right? And we wanted to take that, we wanted to build around that, little learning guides that people could download. We wanted to have little descriptions. We wanted to have all of that stuff. Didn't happen. We didn't get the funding. We weren't able to do all that. So creating what's supposed to happen is you take that collection of presentations and you turn them into a course. I used to do that for university water institutes, right? Land-grant universities, they would have these water institutes, and part of their mission was to do some sort of stakeholder outreach, and I would do that. I would bring in who were the best people who were, you know, we'd pick a theme and say, what is something that's really important that's going on in our state right now? And we'd say, who are the best people working on that? And we would invite them to come present to the students. But then we would add to that some sort of facilitation, interpretation, assistance for the students to understand why this was important and how it fit into the overall program, as well as for them to do something with it in terms of like a term project or something. Okay, so the students are supposed to get some kind of result. The people who watch our Water Summit events are supposed to get some sort of result out of it. It's not just watching. They're supposed to be participating. So we were supposed to get discussion groups. I set up the discussion groups. I didn't have time to send people to them. I didn't have time to engage with people. We were, you know, and then of course there's the promotion. That's the other side of it, is so you want to have the speaker program in a summit, but you also want to have all the engagement around it. And you also want to make sure that you're attracting people who want to be part of a discussion like that and want to engage in a discussion like that and want to be part of solutions. And I didn't have the funding and the time and resources to focus on a very targeted promotional campaign. And it isn't just about how many people you get, it's having the right people at the table. And that's what we were trying to do with WaterCitizen and, you know, this initial event. We looked back and we saw that other than the two doctors who are happy to come back and give us updates, most of the stuff was not time sensitive. Most of it is the stuff that all of us can use at any time to create a healthier home environment, to create a healthier internal environment of you know, what we're putting into our bodies, personal hygiene kind of things that help protect us from disease, not just COVID, right? And so we are going to repackage and re-release that probably the next time, you know, hopefully have it ready by the time the next time coronavirus hits the news cycle, which unfortunately when we released it the first time, it had just disappeared. It was right after the George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter, the demonstrations and whatnot. And suddenly it was like, oh, we don't want to talk about coronavirus anymore. So at that point, it was sort of like, okay, we've got all these great presentations. We should just kind of get them out there. So if people want to watch, they can watch them. But we really didn't build up the whole full program that's going to go around it. So we are looking right now, what we're raising money for is to build out a full-scale Water Summit event. One that is going to include not just the speaker programs, but all the educational components around that and all of the engagement, live engagement opportunities, the live streams, the live discussion groups, the opportunities to ask questions of the speakers that go with the pre-recorded sessions and all the downloadable documents, and to also put together a very targeted campaign to attract and invite in to this free event the people who really want to hear this stuff. So so that's it. I hope that certainly if you watch this log, you're actually into this stuff. Hopefully you'll join us in this campaign. This is something I've done every year around my birthday, is have some sort of fundraiser for WaterCitizen. This has been my life for 10 years. I, you know, turned down jobs. Well, I didn't turn down jobs, but I kind of left the safety of the industry to really try to get this out there because it is so important. And I hope I've at least tried to explain that a little bit in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much